Well, happy belated Thanksgiving, everyone. I come from a long line of storytellers, so every time we get together for the holidays, it's no exception. This holiday, I learned a story. I don't know about you, but sometimes my family repeats the same stories over and over again. And good child that I am, I'm like, uh-huh. No, I haven't. I'm currently lying, white lie, that I've never heard this story before because I love you. But sometimes we hear a brand new story, and my sister and I yell out, "New story!" because we want the other one to pay attention. Like, I've heard the one about the thing, but I haven't heard about this. So I didn't hear the story about when my uncle was young and my grandmother, his mom, came into the room that he had the fire poker in his hand and was poking a nun who had been visiting. I was like, new story? What? You kind of left that one out. And like any good story, I really think a good story isn't always like the once and upon a time and you start from the very beginning. Most stories you see even on TV, you'll see right in the middle is where the story begins. And then there'll be some moment that they'll say, let's catch you up to speed. And let's help you to understand that it was actually the sister who was taunting my uncle, the little boy, with the fire poker first, kind of teasing him, and then he grabbed it from her and was retaliating a little bit. So there's more to the story, right? And when we start any story, we want to understand the beginning, middle, and the end. I think there's a real process there that's beautiful. One of my relatives who's probably watching right now, so hi, how are you? We say that her stories, they have no beginning, they have no end, and the middle stinks too. So, but I disagree. My darling aunt, she is a good storyteller, and she's on the other side of the family, the historian. She's got all the knowledge. So, hope you're doing well. I'm not in trouble. Okay, so what's our story? This is what's really important for us in the 34th Sunday of Ordinary Time. To most of us, that doesn't mean a whole lot. But for our Catholic tradition, what that means is we're finishing this big part, this biggest liturgical year. Ordinary time is not ordinary. It's not about just a regular type of thing. It comes from the Latin for ordinarium, which means number. You know how Easter always shifts, right? So it's with the vernal equinox. So the ordinary time fits. And some of those numbers move back and forth, but it always ends right before Advent. It gives us 4 Sundays to be able to look forward to Christmas. So this is the end of the year. This is the end of the year, which is strange because it's not the end of the year yet on our calendar, but in our liturgical season, it's important for us to understand how we can end the year well. It's like standing upon a precipice and looking out and wondering what's going to happen next, because it's not resolved. And then next week, with a lot of purple anticipation, the beginning of the Advent season, we start to see a preparation for the King coming in the midst of obscurity. That's not what we're celebrating quite yet. We're celebrating Jesus and his majesty and his dominion that has no end, that he is the one that will conquer all, even death and suffering, that he, in the midst of everything that you're experiencing, is the one that you're looking for, and he's your cherished friend. It's important for us to be able to receive that and to be able to believe it as true so we can enter into this new season coming up next week with all the anticipation of Jesus being born into our hearts and coming so small and insignificant, but truly, truly special and to be able to understand, not just in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes that truly matter. Okay, so for some of us, being a friend of Jesus comes easy. For some of us, it doesn't. And I just want to say for everyone here that being a friend of Jesus, being the one to receive his friendship, is one of the most important things he desires for you. Jesus, you're my friend. And just to be able to delight in that, with no other yeah buts, or where you've been, or what you've done, or anything, just that truth, that Jesus is my friend. And I can bask in that. My prayer, my relationship with Jesus as a friend is one that I can communicate all the things that I'm going through. And sometimes Jesus is just there with a cup of coffee and he's like, yeah, that's really hard. I'm sorry. Can I be with you in it? Not to fix it, not to have it all figured out, but just, hey, can we talk about it? Maybe open up my word and here's some maybe explanation on ways that might be able to be helpful for you, just to take a next step forward, to trust that I'm going to be with you in that big step, and that next one, and that next one. Friendship is such a special thing, and any friend that you have, it's a glimpse of the eternal friendship that God wants for us in heaven. And so choosing that, claiming it, is such an important mark of a Christian. It's so important. So I hope that if you're not there, that you might just be able, in your prayer, in your relationship with God, to be able to just truly believe that Jesus calls you his friend. Now, what about the king stuff? Because in our American tradition, like, that kind of bristles, it was like, don't tread on me, right? We got our American mentality. We pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. We don't need a king, right? We took care of that a couple hundreds of years ago, almost 250. And so for us, a king or any sort of monarchy would fly in the face of what it is that we are about. Most of us being American-born, most of us kind of living in this American culture. So how do we reconcile that? Because maybe you're good with the friendship part, but no one's my king, right? I'm the king. I'm the queen. But maybe we can think about it in some sort of way, like, what if Princess Diana, God rest her, when she was still around, I can't start The Crown yet, I'm not there, I just got too much drama in my life right now, and I know how it's going to end, but I can't, anyway, sorry. But what if Princess Di was like, hey, you want to come on the yacht with me and Dodi, just for a weekend? No big deal. I'd be like, yeah, I'm there, right? What about this? What if Anna and Elsa said, do you want to come to the castle with us? Just hang out, right? We'll let everything else go, and we'll have a good experience. We'll sing it out. We'll have some fun. You would go, right? Right? Yeah? Maybe not. Okay, but in the middle of that, to know that maybe if we think about royalty in that regard, yeah, I'd love to be with the king. I'd love to be with the queen. I would love to share in the goodness that comes with being treated like royalty. Guess what? This is the other part of the Christian understanding of God's saving grace. You are. As a friend of the king, it's not that you just stay where you are and God comes to visit you sometimes, but you get to go with God and be with his son, who he says is the king of the universe. You're invited into the pageantry and the majesty and the mystery of being the one who is to rule over all. But our king is a little bit different from all the other kings and all the other queens. Because even in our own society today, in our American culture and throughout the world, we have plenty of people that maybe don't have the status of kings or the title, but they live as kings and queens, yeah? I would say many of them are the ones that have the big corporations, right? Or the ones that are YouTube famous or influencers. Those are the ones, and we pay homage to them all the time, don't we? Our king doesn't come with a lot of flash, bang, razzle, dazzle. Where's our king? He's with the poor. He's with the little ones. He's with the Palestinians and the Israelis. He's with the uncomfortable. He's with the addicts. He's with those that are in jail. He's with those that are related to you that drive you crazy. He's with everyone. No ifs, ands, or buts. And he comes not with scepter, but he comes with pierced hands and side. Not to make you feel uncomfortable or bad or shameful, but for you to understand, look, being my friend, which I'm so glad you are, means that we're going to go be with these people too. We're going to love them, and even though we can't fix the complexities of their lives, we're just going to be with them like I've been with you. And we're going to take those next steps forward and just do our best with the gifts that we have, that God has given to us, to be able to celebrate the truth that what will come is going to be a beautiful thing. And just to do our part to bring his joy and gladness into the midst of that really brokenhearted place that we call earth, that we call the world. What about the sheeps and the goats? It's like, come on, church, give us a break. Right? We've got enough going on with Christ the King and Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. We have to talk about sheeps and goats. Here's my thought on sheeps and goats. The sheep, the tryptophane's still there, friends. All that turkey. The sheep are the ones that are willing to follow the king because they know that they need someone to shepherd them. Right, so the good shepherd that we hear about, we sang in the responsorial psalm, we hear in the gospel, he's the one that sits on his throne, but he says, will you just trust me? Will you follow my commands? Will you live in my freedom? Will you be my friend? But also, will you be my sheep? And not to be afraid of that. Admit that you need help and you can't do it alone. Those are the sheep. The goats are the ones that refuse. They say, I will not follow you. I will not serve. And it's really sad. God seems pretty harsh in the gospel, but he's been pleading all along. Will you please trust me? Will you please be my friend? Will you please let me love you? Will you please let me heal that hurt that you've been holding on to and being defined by? Instead of allowing it to be something that he can permeate and blow up and give whole new meaning. Again, the Lord knows what wounds are all about. That's why our King humbled himself, was born in a stable, but died and was buried in a cave. So I think that's where the goats are, is the refusal to receive God's love. Don't be a goat. My friend, who's a priest from St. Louis, who's currently ministering in Angola, received as a gift 3 goats. He was like, cool. I'm from Maryland Heights, baby. I've never been given a goat before. And he said that the goats were great at first, but then they were just eating everything, right? And they were outside, but he'd look outside and was like, what's the goat doing now? It's just like all over the place. Because goats don't listen to anybody. They just eat. And I know that maybe we've had some goat-like attitudes these past couple of days, and it's fine to feast and to give thanks, but you are not willy-nilly just everywhere destroying things. You're a son or a daughter. You're a friend of the king. You're a sheep that is going to be cherished and instructed on where to go. And the good things that you're able to produce, like wool, are going to be able to be great comfort to other people. So I just encourage you, as we think about ending this year and beginning another one, as we're nourished by the Word and by the Eucharist that we have here, as we're trying our best to persevere and be patient during what can be a beautiful and yet difficult time, talk about friendship with God. What's Advent going to be like for you? How are you going to be a friend of the King and notice where the King is serving and ministering? How are you going to reject that goat-like mentality, which all of us have, and instead focus on following that true King as his sheep, as his follower, as his friend? Let's rise and profess the Apostles' Creed together.